This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Fat Girl from 2001, directed by Catherine Breillat. And we're joined by longtime listener, Aaron Lange, cartoonist and movie watcher and Fat Girl fan, question mark?
And food denier,
Food
mark?
Food denier.
Well, if you will permit, I'd like to read an excerpt from the introduction to Breillat's novel Pornocracy.
Of course.
Absolutely. We are all about reading things from sources.
So this is for the introduction to Pornocracy by Chris Kraus. Wrote the introduction. During the ensuing 4 nights, she will expose him to her horror of being a woman. He'll sample her unctuous, odoriferous cunt juice. He'll note the unshaved. RJ, can we keep the giggles to a minimum?
I'm giggling too.
I'm sorry.
He'll note the unshaved, frizzy flag of her sex, servile like the bowed neck of a slave. And of course, she'll be menstruating. He'll arrange her supine body in lewd poses. He'll mark her vagina with lipstick. Eventually, he'll rape her with an axe handle. And through these activities, he'll discover the power of feminine weakness, the terror her weakness extracts from him.
And
I think that sets the tone for what's to come here.
Yeah. I mean, that's like what is that, Stephen King?
That reads a little bit more like Dean Koontz if I ever saw one, but don't hold me to that, okay? That's prophetic.
Well, a synopsis for Fat Girl from Letterbox. Anais is 12 and bears the weight of the world on her shoulders. She watches her older sister, Elena, whom she both loves and hates. Elena is 15 and devilishly beautiful. Neither more futile, no more stupid than her younger sister. She cannot understand that she is merely an object of desire, and as such, she can only be taken or had. Indeed, this is the subject, a girl's loss of virginity. And that summer, it opens a door to tragedy.
So I said it before we cut to this, but I'm pretty sure this is the same plot as Call Me by Your Name. Now, I know Jarrett's never seen it, but I don't know about Double A. Have you ever seen that coming of age romance movie?
My wife saw it. She said it was good.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but that's a tale for a different day. But it's my point is just there's a few overlapping themes here. So this synopsis, that's not bad.
Not bad.
We've had way worse. And I mean that opening, that's a lot more than we've ever done for any of these movies. So that's also good. I'm sure some of the Criterion simps out there are gonna love that. For sure.
So, RJ, have you ever watched a Catherine Breillat film?
I don't believe so. I believe this is my first one. It's my first time
in America, in North America. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's an important distinction.
I think like the one that I had heard about before was Romance. And
I've seen that. I've seen Fat Girl, and I've seen Anatomy of Hell.
Okay, yeah, those I think those would be the 3 that I think most. If someone's going to, those are the 3 that you've watched, because I don't know how many of these others have really shown up in any of the conversations.
Well, the older films she made, I don't know if you can even find those.
Yeah,
because her career goes way back.
Yeah, it looks like she was writing films in the 70s.
She was an actress in Last Tango in Paris. I mean, she's been around.
Yep,
that's cool.
Yeah, she's been around, and yeah, I mean,
she's the real deal, whether you like her or not. Like, she is.
Well, there's like the book she wrote when she was 17 years old was banned by the French government for readers under the age of 18, which is fascinating that a writer would write something that they would not be able to read in their own country.
But you call that irony, yeah.
Yeah. That's a book called, I guess the English translation is Easy Man. So, Catherine Breillat, she deals with subject matter that some might find difficult. And some I don't know. I don't know any of those people personally. But so Fat Girl opens up as, well, this character Aeneas, who I guess is the titular fat girl. The movie opens up with a still shot of her as the credits kind of play over this, and you're kind of like, huh, that's a odd opening image to start on, but it pays off at the end as you get to see as it all plays toward that. That's film craft right there. So yeah, so the whole story is it's this girl hanging out with her sister, Elena, and you don't really see the parents very much. I kind of imagine, RJ, this is like a lot like the movies that I don't watch, but that you and Andrea do watch, of like coming of age tales. Does that sound accurate? Is this like? I'm assuming.
The setup,
I'm assuming like a movie like Booksmart is very similar to Fat Girl, right? Like identical.
No, well, I mean, there's no rape or murder in Booksmart.
Spoilers.
Not quite, but I mean, there's similar themes, but not quite. I think you'll have to watch Booksmart to nail that. But what you're saying,
or perhaps
films I watch with my wife, that is accurate.
8th grade. It's just like Fat Girl.
Oh yeah, eighth grade. You know, that's that indie darling from Bo Burnham. So yeah, the setup fits into the realm of the movies I watch with Andrea. I did not watch this one with her. However, I told her about it afterwards, and I found some enlightening details come from the female brain. But I don't want to play my hand too soon. I'll get that when it's my turn.
Okay.
Way at the end.
I was also mentioned that some alternative titles in English-speaking countries for Fat Girl are For My Sister, Fat Girl, and Story of a Whale.
Aww. That one's way sadder than Fat Girl. Fat Girl's like a pretty sad title, but Story of a Whale, it's like, that almost feels like a personal slight. I don't know.
So I just want to throw up now the mother is played by Arsini Kajan, who is the wife of Canadian filmmaker Adam McGoyan, and she's in a whole bunch of his movies. Which I had no idea, because I was like, I'm like, who is she? Like, she's got to be in other things. And I was like, oh, yeah, like she's been around for a while. She was in all this stuff, like Adjuster, Calendar, Exotica, even like that Irma Vep movie I've never actually seen, which is Olivier Assayas, which is like that movie. It's like a weird attempted. It's about a remake of that Les Vampires movie from like 1915. You know that one, RJ?
I've heard of it. I didn't realize there was a remake of that thing.
Well, it's a movie. It's a movie about making a remake.
Oh, like Nosferatu style?
Like Shadow of the Vampire, yeah.
That's
yeah. Got it.
Yeah. We're figuring this out.
We're piecing it together. Well, so okay. So Fat Girl, it's what about 7-8 scenes? Sometimes these 90-minute movies where there's a lot.
I can tell you the first sex scene is 25 minutes.
Yes, it is.
That's because you kind of get the setup of these two sisters kind of walking along, and you get introduced to their dynamic, where one is mean to the other, says horrible things, and then the other one also undercuts the other one. Sisterly love, and there's kind of talk like there's a lot of emphasis about them. About her not being easy. I can't remember the exact turn of phrase that she uses, but like she doesn't want to just sleep around. And it's like, well, you have a very loose interpretation of that. And they go to a cafe. A man says, "Hey, 15-year-old and 12-year-old, you should sit down at this table with me." And,
Did you know that RJ wrote the dialogue for the Italian character?
Meatballs! Hey, that's what he says in this movie. Right?
He is. I'm watching this movie and I'm thinking this is like every like RJ stereotype of like an oversexed, like arrogant Italian man who's able to like come across as smooth when if he was American he'd just be like this rapey lout.
So I mean, I feel like I really like that you brought this up. Is that an RJ-ism, or is that just a harsh reality? Because, I mean, if we think about it, if you made that connection on your own, maybe it's not just me. Maybe it's the way it is. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, meatballs.
Meatballs. So there's talks of meatballs. It's almost like just one speaks French, the other one speaks Italian, and the young our fat girl Anais, she has to sit there and eat her sundae, kind of just watch this kind of transpire. Banana splits, sorry. And they start making out. Pretty smooth operator right there.
That's how it always goes.
They return back to the home. There are plans, and soon enough, Buddy is coming over to meet the parents.
They move fast in France, Italy.
Everyone's very okay with this guy who's, I don't know, 20, 22.
I thought this dude is like at least 31, but maybe that's just me. Maybe I have a weird sense of time.
I think you may.
How old is she supposed to be?
15.
So 22 and 15. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yep.
She was born in 1981. Roxanne Mesquita, so she would have been she would have been 20.
At least she was over 18.
Yeah.
Not like that movie Kids.
Yeah, how old was the girl that played Anais?
I think she was 13. From like there's like on the DVD or there's like a 5-minute long like little thing, and that Davis mentioned she's 13 in there.
Fuck.
Problematic.
Man, like it. Let's just. This movie is just so fucking French. They're like this. Would never
totally
ever be made in North America. Like,
do you guys think this would qualify as French extremism?
I think they're kissing cousins.
I mean the ending's something right out of High Tension, right?
I mean, almost. It actually is. It's almost a little High Tension.
Well, just like in its shockingness, I guess, where it's like the how like violence. It just is so abrupt and it just comes out of nowhere.
So I mean, this is like a real spoiler alert kind of movie. I don't think it's possible to talk about this movie without just like.
I hate it. Yeah, I feel like anyone who's like either they're not going to watch this movie, or they're going to listen to it after they've watched the movie, and maybe they're like sussing out how they feel about their experience. Because so the movie is like very minimal. Like I said, there's all these low key frames, and then like their scenes are just these long takes of like I'm watching like a 22-year-old man, wear down a 15-year-old, and like it's like, and he's just every trick in the book, every little like lie, fib, like, working every angle, making her feel bad about rejecting him, and like just every little thing, and like that's the whole process of it. And you're like, I don't know, I didn't feel like it was like dragging on myself, but you definitely become really aware. It's like, this has been going on for a long time. Like, you're watching the entire process of it, and it's not until
it's like a third of the movie.
Yeah. There's just comes a point where like, he sneaks in like the Italian lover who like comes in to see the girl's bedroom, and he's just like, and then you just start watching it play out. And it's and then like the sister's there, and like that's like sort of like, I think maybe once you get a cut to her just to remind you, she's awake and she's watching this entire thing, and then that plays out, and then soon enough he's licking his fingers,
and like in any other movie, like fucking a girl up the ass to not take her virginity would be like played for like laughs.
No,
like isn't this outrageous? Not in the Catherine Breillat movie.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I have heard these things about Catholic boys and their them selling girls on this idea that, you don't lose your virginity if it's up the butt, and
I
have to feel if that's true or not.
I don't know. RJ as a Catholic boy.
Yes, as a Catholic boy, I have to just kind of jump in there, and I say, don't be so quick to assume the stereotypes, Jared.
Like of Italians?
That's not an assumption. That is a given fact. We've proven it in the Criterion Collection. So far, we have had nothing but positive Catholic representations in the Criterion. So I feel like I'm on the right side of history. No, I'll just say don't be so quick to assume, because I think then you get into a tricky area, because when you start to, pin things on certain religions or peoples of those religions as a whole, then you get into difficult areas, because that's like almost like saying that a certain group only does this one certain thing. And I'm not going to mention that, but I'm saying that's something that happens.
Okay.
So be careful.
Fair
I've never tried that move, if you're curious.
Okay.
That's a deep look into my life, but I'm a nice clean Catholic boy. I got married before I even took my underwear off. I've been wearing the same ones for 30 years until I got married. So,
Well, do we want to know what Catherine Breillat said about Harvey Weinstein?
No.
Oof. We don't want to know.
Oh, I do. I would love to know.
Yeah, no, I think Jared said he meant he doesn't know what she said. What was it?
She said of Weinstein's persecution and downfall that it was a tremendous loss for European cinema.
Interesting.
Do you want to know what she had to say about the Me Too movement?
I would.
Yeah.
Yes, I would.
Now I do.
For me, she said.
Well, I did see that. Oh man, yeah. I see something about her. She made controversial remarks on Asia Argento, who she called a traitor, a mercenary, and accused her of semi-prostitution.
And Argento responded, Breillat is the most sadistic and downright evil director I've ever worked with.
Hey, that says a lot, because she worked with Dario Argento, which is like,
it does say
that dude's Italian. We know what that's about, right?
Oh boy!
Right, Italy.
I would like to say I did look into this today. Breillat is a complicated and intelligent woman, and so when she says she's like against Me Too, it's not like the typical need. She explains herself. She has her reasons. They're exceedingly French.
Which I think will make a lot more sense when we get to the who hates fat girl, because this movie would, like you said, like this movie wouldn't be allowed to exist now. I don't know. There would be so much. It would just be about controversy, and it was controversial when it came out. But now, boy, oh boy, it's at this point.
Because Breillat lives and breathes in gray areas, and we're living at a time where people are just terrified of gray areas. Everything's a very moral absolutist kind of extremism, and Breillat has always negated that and looked for the fuzzy in between places.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about, I guess, because what this film depicts for a huge chunk of it is that relationships are not these, again, clean negotiations necessarily. Sometimes there is relationships can be bad or complicated, and what people necessarily want or what they don't want can be difficult to discern, even to the person themselves. And I mean, Fat Girl, the movie just goes right into those things, and Catherine Breillat just has no problem depicting those things, and that's kind of her calling card, I guess, is she's going to those interactions and depicting them, I guess, as she sees them.
I think her work, it's in a lot of ways they're fairy tales or fables. And these aspects, she's not saying that this is what men are like or this is what women are like, but so the aspects of men and women that she's interested in talking about, and she exaggerates and plays up these things. She's not making broad declarative statements. She's exploring particular facets somewhat obsessively.
Yes. Oh yeah. I mean, and I think that would start when you're writing a book that gets banned in your own country, and when you're told what you can't do, I think that's only going to push a person toward that inclination. If there was an inkling of that there, and she obviously wrote an entire book, which is more than an inkling, it's it's an impulse. When you're told you can't do it, she's just going to okay, well, I'm just going to keep going in this, and make an entire body of work that is about about bodies and about sexuality explicitly, and then you're going to wind up with a movie like Fat Girl, which I mean is going to challenge what people want to see in movies potentially.
So what Breillat said about the rapist character, if he's even a character, she said one could argue that the rapist, you're gonna love this. One could argue that the rapist is the most sympathetic male character in the film. He's the only one who presents himself as he really is. Which really is a window into the rhetorical style of what she's doing, where nothing is like a very literal, but she's like creating a kind of argument. It's very rhetorical.
I kind of understand what she's saying. I don't know if that makes me a bad dude, or I don't know. I think I understand what she means by that.
Right. I mean, that's the thing though, is like she's like kind of operating this like on an intellectual level, you can relate to this. I mean, it's not being like, is this character sympathetic as when we talk about sympathy? I guess too, because some people have
the titular fat girl. She's kind of arguably, the reading is that she's liberated through this. She goes through this act of violence, and she's freed and empowered. And Breillat is not trying to say that this is what reality is like. She's working from like folklore and myth, but in a way that we don't necessarily recognize because she doesn't have fucking dragons. And
it's depicted completely like in a literal, real time and space, like in movie space. Like this is how people like it looks like real. Everything. I mean, even though there's like these stylizations, like I think about their clothing that the sisters wear, like those bright yellow sweaters and shirts,
ketchup and mustard.
Yeah. And like I found that so interesting because I mean, for this movie that like has this naturalism in its style and depiction of reality, like there's still this like kind of like it's like Wes Anderson-ish, like these colors. They're so bright and poppy. In this movie, obviously, like, doesn't have anything to do with Wes Anderson, but it's like movie making. It's like Godard would use those types of colors.
Shot near the end where like they're at like a truck stop and like there's this like garish like American pop song playing and they're just like vacantly staring into space eating sandwiches. It's just a really great scene.
I think
super relatable.
When the mom finally decides when they get back into the car, they turn on the radio and like and Ace is like, "This is horrible, Mom." Like, it's like yes.
So RJ, would you say the most disturbing scene in the film is when Fat Girl is eating that like very large piece of dry bread? What's going on there? Do we have any guesses on what kind of bread that might have been?
I mean, it looked almost like that really thick bread, almost like a Scotch bread, or what is that called? Like I was slapping my knee there. I'm trying to think about myself, like soda bread. That like really super dense bread that's just like almost like a cracker, but it still has a little give. Maybe soda bread. I don't know. That's a pretty disturbing scene. Another scene is
like an unpleasant piece of bread to eat.
It does.
So I'm talking about food, but there's a lot of eating in Fat Girl.
There's a lot of eating in Fat Girl. I was also a little bit put off by the application of sunscreen in this movie, and it's a whole leg and then a whole leg and then slathered on. It just seemed like too much sunscreen.
Everyone's behaving like it's summertime, but like it looks like it's fucking cold out.
Yeah.
Like, where are they? What time of year is it? Like, is it like Labor Day? Like, is it like the end of summer? And like, they're like, oh, it's jacket weather, but we're gonna go swimming anyhow.
It's these French chateaus, anything goes, right, Jarrett?
Well, they're a long ways away from home because like she drives like from morning through night and has to pull over. Like that's quite the trip in Europe.
And like, what kind of vacation spot is this? Because it doesn't seem it's not shown in the typical cinematic way of like. Mm-hmm. It's like they're at a strip mall, like.
Yeah, I think it's like
driving through these like paths covered with like on the sides. There's like stacks of like lumber.
I just assume that's what Europe looks like, though.
Yeah,
there's lumber everywhere.
our poor Canadian minds, that's all we have for Europe. It actually reminded me a lot of like for where we live, a lot of people like to vacation in like Arizona. It's like snowbird mentality. Like when it gets cold up here, they go down there. And I've seen like I've never done it myself, but a lot of dudes I know, they go down and they live in these like they rent these places, and it's like a whole kind of like condo, but then they're connected to other condos, and then like there's these big pools. Sometimes they're private for the condo themselves, sometimes they're shared. And when I was watching this, I was like, it feels like it's kind of that mentality where you rent out like a condo, you got like your own little pool, there's like people maybe around you a little bit, but then there's also like some space between it. That's what I kind of thought. I don't know, that's a weird example, but
once, and it was like French Canadian Jersey Shore. Like this is where like French Canadian trash like went to party. There were like French Canadian bikers, and like you could get like there's like there's like kind of like carnival thing set up. You could get poutine, and like the signs were like bilingual. I was like, what's going on here?
And just oui, boring.
Exactly.
Right, Jarrett?
Yeah. So I was just looking up the filming location, Saint-Ouen, Charente, which is on the west coast of France, somewheres.
Okay.
I'm looking at a map. It's not as easy to point to on a map as easy as Cleveland, but it's by the ocean. Like it's a massive swath of like land. So I mean, there's some. It's got to be somewhere
right near the beach.
Near the beach, but like, it's not the best. It's not the nicest beach I've ever seen.
In the movie, or are you talking about the whole coastline of this part of France?
In movies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some better beaches. You ever seen Jaws 3? Pretty good beach.
It looks like a beach town, like one of those like British new wave like kitchen sink dramas where like they're at the beach, but it's like fucking cold and like dreary. That's what it's like.
Right out of a Ken Loach movie.
It's kind of like our creep from 2 weeks ago, A Woman Under the Influence, when Peter Falk takes his Peter Falk. He takes his kids to the beach, and it's like real cold, and none of them want to be there, and they're just like, we're having a good time at the beach, but it's really unpleasant for everyone.
There's a scene like that in what's the Jim Jarmusch movie? They come to Cleveland and they go to Lake Erie, and it's like the winter.
Oh,
My Own Private Idaho?
No,
that's Gus Van Sant. My bad.
Stranger Than Paradise.
Oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah.
They come to Cleveland and like they go to the lake, and it's frozen and it's winter.
Right.
River's Edge.
Yeah. So, fat girl.
Oh yeah. So
she sodomy happens in the bedroom.
Oof.
And then Buddy wants on top of all this, he's like in the morning, it's like, hey, I'd like a blowjob as well. That would be really nice with my poo dick. And
oh my god.
Yeah, see, you didn't think about that.
The podcast commission is coming after us for sure. I can't believe this.
Yeah, and then so she's like, no, I'm not with my sister here. And so they leave. But then again, he starts like talking like, I don't know if you're going to see me again anytime soon. And then she's like, oh, I really want to do this now for you here by the stable. And he's like, hey, I could go to jail for this. It's like, indeed, buddy. And so they kind of like...
I was like, oh, the French care?
I don't know. It's 2001.
Maybe that's what we call suspension of disbelief.
Right.
I don't know. Laws are weird some places. I went to China when I was like 15, and I ordered a beer, and they didn't care.
Actually, I think he says you're not 16.
Oh, so that's a age of consent there, or what?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Not a problem the night before, but...
Well, after the fact.
After the fact. Now he's like, oh, geez, I got to get out of this situation. But they still kind of carry on. He gives her a ring from his mother's collection, which, of course, elicits Mom to come and collect the ring that has been given to her by all the men that she herself has met over the years. You get some nasty exchanges again, more and more between the sister. That like it plays like back and forth. again, what can you really say about it? I don't know, Aaron. Do you have any thoughts about the dialogue exchanges? Did you feel like they're just kind of there, or
between
the
sisters,
the sister chat, like the pillow chat, like where it's like these.
So I saw this movie first maybe 10 plus years ago.
Yeah,
and it resonated with me this time watching it last night.
Okay.
Quite a bit. So you remember you read descriptions of the movie and it's like, oh, there's these sisters are antagonistic and they hate each other, but it's actually way more complex than that.
Mm-hmm.
So my memory of this movie before rewatching it this week was like for some reason I kept thinking this was like very Todd Solondz-ish, and that this was more like Welcome to the Dollhouse thing, where like the family like almost they're horrible, and like you want bad things, like you're like, oh, the mom's terrible to her like one daughter, and the sister's like constantly horrible to her, and that's not this movie at all. Like, but
no,
in my
you remember it that way.
But in my head, it was like, oh, that's what it is, because then it's somehow like a justification for what happens later, but in like a brutal fashion, because you get like, oh, all her dreams come true, and that's because like there's a thing where she's like, when I lose my virginity, I don't want that person to be important, and I don't want it to mean anything, and that happens. And yeah, but so like in my mind, I was like, oh, there's these other things that I filled the gaps in with, because like you have like these parents that like they aren't even like particularly like they're people, like they're not like, I don't know, the dad's like a workaholic and the mom
they're like the parents from like Peanuts cartoons. They're like
right.
barely like they're there, but they're like on a different kind of plane.
Right. Speaking of food, RJ, I know you often observe like the type of food that the French eat on the table. So did you make any notes about what they were eating for breakfast?
It was a little atypical from what I usually see in these French films, which is usually just like 8 bowls of fruit, a bowl of cheese, a baguette, and then like something else. And all they have at French dinner tables, I assume, is a plate and a knife. So you grab like the cheese and you just kind of cut off a piece. You grab the bread and cut off a piece. Fruit you just cut in half. Wasn't quite like that. I was kind of confused by the food they were eating in this, because I was like, what is that?
Is it taffy he's eating in the car?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like an Abba Zaba. It's like this huge strip of taffy. That's the only thing that I kind of recognized. The other stuff I was like, I don't know what this is. It looks like mush.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that was just me. I was like, these just looks like parfaits of things that are just like thrown together.
Perfect thing to just stuff in your face, because it just keeps coming.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yeah, it just keeps coming like the Abba Zaba. You pull on it and it just keeps going, man. Keeps going.
So yeah, Dad takes off. The family that remains, Mom and the daughters, they go clothing shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up some outfits. They go to the beach. Another scene at the beach before the boyfriend's mom shows up, and of course this sets off the return and kind of impromptu ending of vacation to go get Alina checked out by a doctor. And then this is like an extended scene of like exactly what it's like to be driving. And it's like, yeah, like driving is like not exciting, but it is like everyone has to eventually go from one place to another, and it's like a universal experience.
Kind of boxed in by these trucks.
Oh yeah,
and it's been like the mom. It's been established like she doesn't like to drive,
right?
And like they've been abandoned by like the father and the husband. So like there's this kind of anxiety building.
Mm-hmm. And you don't know why. And she's just like, it seems like she's not doing anything wrong, but then she kind of shifts over and there's these car horns that like go off every once in a while. And like, they're just like, yeah, you're sandwiched in, and like, you're kind of losing track of even what vehicle they're driving. And it's just like kind of this like maze of vehicles. And then like, she's getting more and more stressed out, just like a chimney, just smoking. And like her, like kind of like the way she was presenting earlier in the film, where she was like very like, I'm on vacation, but like doing my hair all light up. And then like once husband's gone and like she's with the fucking kids and she's like, we have to get back and I'm driving, it's like she looks like, like hers like frizzled and her face is just straight dead, and she's just like, oh god. You can see the regrets of her entire life coming to the forefront. And then they stop. They have a bite at a standing table. I started thinking about the movie The Vanishing in Europe and like their versions of truck stops and people just vanishing completely off the face of the planet. And then they continue on, and eventually night comes. She can't drive anymore. They pull over at a truck stop, and there's like this one shot that like jumped out at me immediately, where Anais is like kind of just standing outside of the vehicle, and this truck drives by, and there's this like really weird menacing shot of the truck driver, and that's and you're just like, huh. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I started thinking about, it reminded me of palindromes again. Todd Solondz like pops up into my mind with this. And I was like, oh, it's like, is that like, am I misremembering something entirely different? Like, I don't remember this truck driver guy at all. And then, they go to sleep. And then the windshield gets smashed, and sister gets her head caved in by,
like, out of nowhere.
Of nowhere. Like, was it a hammer or is it a hatchet?
It's like a hatchet.
Yeah, okay.
Literal axe murderer.
Yeah. He just hits her. She's out. And then we have this like kind of just like not extended, but just kind of like little prolonged thing where you're like, oh, he's just like pawing at mom's like blouse, pulls it apart a little bit, but then proceeds to just strangle her in like the movie kind of way where it takes like 8 seconds to strangle a person to death.
That annoyed me. It was way too like Vulcan damage.
Yeah, and so she's just dead, and you're like, without anything. I get like the only thing you really get is like that close up later where you see the aftermath of her shoes in the car. That's grim stuff. But like it's not really played out like when. But
I feel like the grim, just like absolutely savage, like unstylized, unsentimental, like axe attack, and then to have this kind of like weak Hollywood strangle.
Yeah,
that was lame.
Yeah, it's. I mean, now we sound like ghouls. Wait, like why didn't they make the realistic strangling better? But it's like I'm glad I didn't see that. I suppose, but at the same time, you're like, why? What a weird shortcut to take of all things, because
it's so uncompromising in every other way.
Yeah, exactly. Because like at that point now she's dead, and Ace gets out of the car, and she's kind of like walked back out into the woods, and then she's like full on just raped, and you get to see that experience, and it's like done in this way. It's like it's not done for like any sort of like, it's not like a rape revenge movie where there's like a weird like stylization where like the camera's cutting away to like artfully to a branch or like dew on leaves. It's like, no, you're gonna watch this kind of go down, and it's going to be kind of done in this like way where like you can see expressions and like thinking going on in the faces, and then that's it. Like, oh fuck this! Oh god, the panties shoved in the mouth.
Panties in the mouth.
Fuck.
The removed.
Fuck. And and then you're like, oh well, now she's gonna get killed. No, they come. It's so messed up. And then he's gone, and then we cut to like the police have arrived. We see the daughter, her head just like, oh, there's a skull in her head. She's dead. And there's mom dead. There's her shoes all mangled up as she kicked for her life. And then the police retrieve Anais from the woods, and she's like, she says she wasn't raped. And Anais says, no, I wasn't. Or what's the final line?
She's like, you don't have to believe me if you don't want to,
right,
or something like that.
And freeze frame.
It's the weirdest freeze frame. It's like,
it's almost 400 Blows style freeze frame where it's just cut on like a weird
I read the
spot.
essay. I bought the DVD during the last sale, and so I read the booklet. I read the essay, and they said the same thing.
Yeah,
I haven't seen 400 Blows in over 20 years. So,
it's one of our most fabled episodes. People love my input on that one for sure.
Where you refer to it as Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
It is. It's poor Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's all that movie is. Anyways, that you can go listen to that one if you want. But when this movie ended, I was like, 400 Blows, eh? That was my reaction.
Right. So yeah, I mean, to just summarize, I guess, my thoughts on this before I hand it off to you, gents. It's not a movie you like go and I enjoy this. Like I'm gonna watch this again. I mean, I've now seen it twice. I don't know when three's coming along. But I mean, I think it's worth watching. I think people should watch it. And like that's about it. I mean, you're going to get out of it what you're going to get. I can understand someone like being angry by it. I mean, that's kind. I mean, I don't know if Breillat would like say like she probably expects people to have like a strong reaction to it. But I don't know if necessarily she thinks it's that objectionable because she's thinking about things in a whole different way. But so yeah, I'm like I don't know. I'm neutral on this movie, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
But so I don't know, Aaron or RJ, who wants to go first? What do you think of this movie? How about Aaron?
I'd like Aaron to go first.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral on all the movies of hers I've seen. You know, they're not. It's more like they're always more like essays.
Yeah.
They're not stories. It's very French. You know, like here are some ideas, and we can talk about them. And they're not. Well, it's fine, but they're not entertainments. They're not narratively driven, and that's fine too. But they are what they are. They're political, for lack of a better term. Fat Girl. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation because the ending is so jarring that it's almost like it takes you out of it. But I guess in real life, an act of violence is jarring and takes you out of. You know, it is transformative,
right?
But like an American Hollywood movie, there would have been like on the radio, there would have been like axe murderers on the loose.
Yep.
You know, so you have to admire all like what it doesn't do, like all the Hollywood bullshit that's just avoided, and just like the treatment of the fat girl. It's not sentimental. It's not. It's really just unsparing and kind of. I don't even know what word I'm looking for. It's just so unlike an American film.
I think that scene that you wanted, or not wanted, but where the radio's like, axe murder on the moose. I think that's happened off panel. I know you're a comic artist, so just assume it happened off panel. You know, these French, they're like, you can fill in the gaps. You can get that. Yeah.
I mean, that type of ending, though, like that kind of like when you have your narrative and then you interject the like randomness of violence, it's such a huge risk, I think, because depending on how you do it and like how it resolves afterwards, it can upset people a lot. I kind of think about this maybe relates. So there's like one episode of the TV show 6 Feet Under where it's like where the one character, David, basically it's just like a day in the life of David, where like usually the show has like this kind of back and forth sort of soap opera element to the whole show, but in this particular episode you get to see him get kidnapped by a man. And yeah, and like it's just like I fucking hated that episode because I'm like, this is not what I watched this show for, and it was so unnecessary, and it becomes like it was just like unpleasant to watch. And
then it's not like on an old network show where like something bad happens and then everyone moves on. Like, no, this is gonna like deal with his trauma
for the next 3 seasons. Like, but you're like, holy shit! Like that's like kind of like that. And people like, yeah, I mean, I felt that way. It's been a while since I've actually watched that show to see how it works now. But like, I remember like I had a really strong reaction to it, and I feel like people might be watching Fat Girl and like not know me. Like, I don't know how people avoid information completely on like this movie that like, oh, I'm gonna check this out, I've heard it's a coming of age story, and like not know any of the other parts of it that come along with it.
Oh, it would be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Where it's like surprise. And because like this movie's often on like those lists where like I think like AV Club years ago had it on like 24 great films you only need to see once. And like it's like on that kind of like list of like controversial films, and like that's how people they check it out because they're like, okay, I can handle this. I want to push my limits of like what's extreme, I guess. And then they watch this movie and you're like, what the hell is this? This is just like coming of age awkwardness. But then you're like, oh, here's some like kind of like uncomfortable sex scenes that are like very like stretched out and like bring you right into them. And there's like that, so there's like that kind of discomfort, and people are like, oh, it's this kind of thing. Well, I'm okay with this. But then suddenly it's like axe murder and murder mom and rape 13-year-old 12-year-olds, like, oh. And then people go, okay, to what end? And you're like, well, that's the question.
But would you like to know what Breillat had to say about Anais, the fat girl's appearance?
Yes.
Sure.
Anais has a forbidden body, a disturbing body, very sensual, even if her head and face are still those of a little girl.
Yeah.
All right.
End quote.
End quote.
End quote. When you were talking about, Jarrett, when you're talking about 6 Feet Under, and you're like, it's like this random thing that comes out of nowhere. All I could think about is like if you applied that to a different show, where say if in like Cheers, you had Norm, and like you see him leave the bar, you're like, oh, we're following Norm for a night, and then he goes and he beats a hobo to death, and then he goes home, and then it's like it just never gets addressed, and you're just like, huh.
So I've been watching. This is going to sound ridiculous, but I've been watching ER.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know why. It's like really easy to watch, and like we're fucking deep into it now. Like George Clooney, who's that? No, we're like in like Linda Cardellini era. We're like it's like the 2000s. We're deep into it.
Yeah.
But like, there's this character they introduce. He's like the dude from RoboCop that gets like dumped in like the toxic sludge that he's hit by the car.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's like this like real shithead doctor, and he's got like really, really bad luck with helicopters.
Like he like tried to reach up and his hand got cut off one
like
time.
He's on like the helipad and he drops like his clipboard, and he goes to pick it up, and when he stands up, his fucking arm goes into the rear propeller. And it's like a full like shot like on network TV of just like his arm going off and like CGI blood going everywhere. And then like this goes on, this storyline goes on for a long time. They reattach his arm, but it's like not taking. And like he doesn't have feeling, so he'll like accidentally like close it in a door. Or like he's trying to make tea, and he like leaves his like arm like on the burner and it catches on fire. Then like a whole season later, maybe 2 seasons later, a helicopter falls on him and kills him.
What? Oh.
And it's like real like Brian De Palma style. Like you're like something's gonna happen, but I don't know like what or why. And like this like propeller's being weird, and like it falls off the side of the building, and it explodes as it's falling, and it like blows out a side of the hospital. This was like $1 million episode.
Was this during like what's that called? Like when TV like they always
Sweep.
like sweeps week is like we got to go all with a bang.
It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen on TV. Like it was kind of like disturbing almost in that fat girl way, because you're like, I can't believe this just happened like out of nowhere.
Right. And it's like
See,
it's happening on TV.
Awesome. That sounds awesome because it's ER, and I think the added irony of this guy always getting injured and killed by helicopters specifically.
Right, I mean, the characters like comment.
It's hilarious.
Be like, that guy must have done something to a helicopter in his past life. So it just makes you wonder what was going on in the writer's room. They're like, well, let's make the helicopter work, so let's do it again.
That sounds like something I would say, but like as a dumb joke, because I say really stupid shit all the time. It's like, what if helicopters just hurt them all the time? Someone would be like, that's a dumb idea, but these ER people are like, we should go with that.
Right, it's like a Family Guy idea, but like they did it like as a serious drama. It's really strange.
It's weird what shows can get away with. It's like when I was talking about Deep Space Nine, and they crucified Rom onto one of the walls, and I was like, huh? I didn't think that was going to happen in Star Trek. It didn't happen before. It's not like he got crucified all the time. But, I mean, if it happens again, maybe there's something to it. Maybe helicopter style. I don't know. Sorry, we went off on a weird one there. Do you have anything else, Double A, that you think might work in this bad boy? Any other lingering thoughts on Fat Girl? Anything else like that?
Fat Girl leaves nothing but lingering thoughts.
That's not a bad sell. I kind of like that.
How about you, RJ?
So this has been built up a little bit. One thing I wanted to ask, Aaron Lange, how come you chose Fat Girl? Was it just something that you're like, oh, that's coming up soon, that sounds good, I'll go on that? Or was it something that you actually were like, I want to do Fat Girl?
Well,
or just timing?
I figured there'd be plenty to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Which there has been.
And also, I gotta say I'm a little disappointed. I thought you'd be a lot more squirmy about this one, RJ.
Well, I haven't really.
This was going to be like a Salo level.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. So, I've kind of jumped in a few times, but I haven't even really said what I think about this movie.
Fair enough.
So I'll lay it on you guys right now. So this is a movie that I have actually been. I haven't wanted to watch this like ever, just because I think Jarrett told me about it like 3 years ago, and I was like, ugh. I was like, I don't want to watch that. I was like, because I think it was like first year podcast when we were in like Spines, like I don't know, we were on Spine like 15. He's like, guess what? In like 200 episodes, we'll start talking about Fat Girl, and I was like, oh, what is that?
I think the title just disgusted you.
Yeah, I was like, ugh, Fat Girl. I was like, what is that about? I was like, that doesn't sound like that doesn't sound like Sister Act. That's not my kind of movie. So I was like, I don't want to do that. And then this year I saw that it was in the timeline. Like, I think what we don't do a lot of planning, but we have like a month or two ahead kind of. It's like, oh, these are the movies just so we know that what we got to watch. And I saw it in the schedule and I was like, Fat Girl. And then like 2 weeks ago, Jarrett was like, oh, Fat Girl's coming up. And I was like, what? I was like, I thought that was like a year from now. And so I really didn't want to watch it. And then, so when I was going to watch it this week, so Andy, my wife, whenever I watch my Criterion, she's always like, what are you going to watch? She's watched, I'd say, about exactly 50% of them with me.
That's
sometimes, fair. Yeah, like maybe 50%. And she'll always be like, well, what's the movie this week? And sometimes they'll be like, just outright, you're not going to like it. So like sometimes we've had movies it's like, I know you're not going to like it. Like say Andrei Rublev or some shit like that. It's like, nah, don't worry about it. This one I kind of told her about and she's like, that sounds okay. And I was like, I don't think you're going to like it. I don't think I'm going to like this movie. So I was like, let me just watch it. And then I'll tell you about it. So I told her about it, and it's like I said, I got a little insight into some things. I think Oliver Granger commented on our Instagram about how he's like he can't wait for two cis white hetero males to talk about this movie, and I think we have three now instead, which is even better. And he even gave me some facts on Fat Girl was banned in Ontario by the Ontario Film Review for late 2001 due to objections regarding the frank representation of teenage sexuality. He followed up by saying in 2020 the ban was extended to Alberta by local misogynist RJ Breillat. Famed creep Jarrett heavily protested the ban. Is that true? I don't know. I'm doing a lot of build up here, you know.
Yep.
A lot of build up. So I have two minds of this movie. So I was watching it and I get to that 25-minute sex scene and I'm like, it's one of those things I'm watching and I'm like, what is the intent? What are they trying to do? I actually do try to sometimes understand these movies and I'm like, what are they trying to say with this? Is it just making it like this uncomfortable to do it? Much like how I find Salo sometimes, where it's like, is the object to make people uncomfortable? I don't know. Let me keep going. So I keep watching. I kind of I knew the ending before it happened, which I guess is probably bad. Sometime years ago, it was spoiled to me. I don't know when, but so I was just waiting, and I was like, how does it get to that point? And I was watching, and then it happens, and I'm like, huh. So in my mind, I was trying to rationalize this for myself, and I was trying to explain it to Andrea. Because I started off and I was like, you know, it's this movie about two sisters. One of them is kind of shitty to the other one, but they kind of give it back and forth. And we actually know two sisters who are kind of like this. So I was like, it's kind of like these people that we know. And she's like, oh, that sounds good. I was like, I don't know if good is the word I would use. And then I talk about I told her how there was a 30-minute long scene of this guy pressuring this girl into lewd acts, is what I would call them. And Andrea, she was like, well, that's how you guys kind of are. And she said it like at me. I was like, me guys? I was like, I'm nothing but a saint. I'm an angel. I'm a Catholic man. As Jarrett pointed out earlier, I was like, I never. So we kind of got into it a little bit more, and then I kind of told her what happens at the end, and she said something that I think is worth repeating, because it was kind of like I was trying to figure it out in my head, where I was like, why is there this huge abrupt thing at the end with this rapist? I was like, I don't get it. And she was kind of like, well, and this is her not even watching the movie. She's like, so the first hour was this guy pressuring this girl into having sex. And so it's like, she is underage, so technically statutory rape. And then she's like, but then the ending is an actual full-blown rape with like this rapist guy. She's like, maybe the movie is trying to say that these things are actually on the same level, where it's like full-blown rape and statutory rape. Maybe they're somewhat in the same kind of ballpark. And I was like,
Captain Breillat.
Yeah. I mean, would you say? Now that you have heard.
Now
quotes.
that I've heard I didn't realize that she had that kind of mindset. So now that I know that, because I'm not even gonna lie to you, when my gentle, kind wife explained her kind of female interpretation of this,
that's a very like Me Too feminist friendly interpretation, and it's not a crazy interpretation either. But it's
not far off. Yeah.
No, it makes sense. But
so when I thought that, my opinion of the movie kind of brightened a little bit. I was like, huh.
Oh.
I was like, I am not a lady. I don't know how it is. As Oliver pointed out, I'm a cis white male. I'm living the high life. I'm on top. Slam dunks all the time is what society tells me. And I was like, not too bad. And then when you said all that stuff leading in, I was like, wait a minute. Maybe that wasn't right. Maybe it was what I thought the whole time. And so my thing on this.
So good.
So I've been, I'm not going to lie to you guys. The last 4 days have been an emotional roller coaster for me, because I watched the movie. I had what obviously you guys all know I thought of this movie. I was like, what the fuck is this? Why does this exist? Because my big thing too is, I talked about this, say when we were talking about kids, not in the collection proper, but I was like, I understand depictions of teenage sexuality. It's like, yeah, that is a thing that we all experience. But the thing I don't like is, I don't know if this like makes me a weird old man or something. It's just like, I don't really like seeing it in movies, because I feel like it falls into that camp where it's like, are they portraying it because they're trying to say something about it? Or is it like, how is this going to be interpreted by the people who consume it? So it's kind of like Aronofsky's Mother, where his big thing was like, once it gets out into the world, it's not yours anymore. So I'm like, some of these dudes who watch these movies, are they just watching it for that because that's what they want? And that's a whole other ball game. That's not something to hold against the movie itself. But I do find it hard to watch movies that kind of interpret the teenage stuff like that, because it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is the right way to do this.
I'll say this: I think Batgirl is much better than Kids.
I kind of agree with you on that one. So I have that kind of thing hanging over me for a lot of this movie. And then, so like I said, I had that. I was like, why does this exist? I don't really understand it. My wife tried to explain what, like, just based on my explanation, which was probably poor anyways. She's like, maybe it's this. And her positive kind of mentality. And I was like, maybe it is that. And then now tonight, you two cis white hetero men just kind of broke that down on me again. And I'm like, all right, why does this exist? I don't even know anymore. I don't know what to think about this movie, to be honest. If I had the optimistic kind of interpretation, you could be like, well, it's a statement about like predatory men in a way. It's like, okay, cool. But then there's the other side where it's like, or is it just gratuitous for the sake of it? I don't know.
I don't think it's gratuitous.
not in like the gratuitous, like, say, flashy sense, but like the portrayal of some things, I guess. I don't really know where this movie falls in there for me. I know I don't like the depiction of teenage sexuality, but I'm never gonna like that.
Oh, okay.
I just find it off-putting. I don't like sexuality at all.
So, as I sometimes do, I check out, like, what did Roger Ebert have to say about Fat Girl? And I checked it out. So, he watched it, RJ. We're just out a little bit. November 23rd, 2001. We're missing out by 2 days there in a year.
Always
the
so
20th
close.
anniversary of the review. But he mentions, like, when he's talking about it, he refers to the Alina character as a 15-year-old sex pot, and also refers to her as a sexy 15-year-old.
The problem is you can't talk about this movie without actually doing that.
Right.
I mean,
It's how she's presented.
It would be interesting if this, like, the equivalent movie came out now. It'd be really interesting to see the, like, bending over backwards to avoid talking about that element completely. Yeah. Like, it would just be, like, kind of funny because they'd be like, oh, you can't say that, so you'd have to, like, really monitor it. So it's just funny that, like, you go back to 2001, the good old days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 9/11 just happened.
Ebert's watching
smoking
Fat
hot piece of 15-year-old ass.
Yeah, that's Ebes.
Ebert.
Ebes.
R.I.P.
No.
So yeah, that's what I mean. It's a mixed bag. I think I even thought I was gonna hate this way more than I actually did. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. A mark on the movie, but I do think there's something different to it, but there's also something off for it for me. I do admire, like, I do think those kind of representations of sexuality are important. I just don't really like watching it because I just don't like watching people getting down for some reason, especially when it's like underage people. I find it problematic, as the kids would say. But you know what is one thing I will give it to its credit? I think this movie looks pretty good. When I was watching it, I was like, hey, I don't know a lot about filming and photography, but I think this looks like a good show. Pretty good show in that sense.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
Pretty fair. So yeah, I don't know, guys. Some things okay, some things not okay. And what I heard from one side and now I'm getting the other side, I don't think I'll ever understand. I'll never watch it again. That's probably for sure. But that's not news or anything. So that's my 2 cents. That was a long, kind of winded rant, but I don't know.
But what you're saying is you liked it better than Funny Games.
Yeah, I don't like funny games.
Okay.
I don't like funny games, like, almost at all. That movie annoys me to, like, that movie annoys the shit out of me. I don't want to watch that again, but I have to, I guess.
One day you will. Well, you want to hear from people who hate this movie, and I am also going to read from some people who love this movie, some recent reviews, some 5 stars. But we'll do the half-star ones first, RJ, if you're all ready.
I'm ready.
We got a half-star review from Sarah Smith. Fuck this pedo shit.
I mean, it's kind of like I said, I didn't go to that kind of extreme for it. Sarah Smith's 5-star movies include The Cat in the Hat, starring Canadian Mike Myers, Jennifer's Body,
oh God,
Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Midsummer, which is another one of those gratuitous violence movies that you were talking about, or not gratuitous, but abrupt violence movies. Lady Bird is also in there, so I guess that's kind of like a movie that you're talking about.
I like Lady Bird.
Yeah, Lady Bird's not bad. She only has 5 half-star films. Fat Girl, 2 Things I Don't Know, Tusk, which takes place in Canada, and then I'm thinking of Ending Things. So I guess that fits in here in the realm of the Fat Girls. And she just watched this.
The realm of the
today.
Fat Girls.
Did you see that, Jarrett?
Oh wow, I did not.
Today.
Wow, I didn't notice that part.
That's pretty wild. That's never happened before.
This fresh take.
As Aaron said, this day's full of just first-time happenings for us. So
record-breaking.
Record-breaking.
Wild.
Huge. We have, God, what is this? Lux Blues?
Luxembourg Blues.
Okay, I when I copy and when I copy and pasted this, I can barely read the font because sometimes I copy and paste this stuff in advance, and like it was so tiny. Now that I have made it at a reasonable font from 8, I can clearly see Luxembourg Blues.
What's your font, like Helvetica or something? What are you using over
No,
there,
it was
man?
like I transfer, I jump around. There's emails, it goes to Word docs, and yeah, I couldn't read what it said. I can't even read what the next one is, so I'm gonna get on top of that. I think it says Monica, but
I'll check it out.
Monica it is. All right, there we go. Luxembourg Blues, half a star writes, and this is from 3 days ago.
Why is everyone watching this?
Is it streaming?
Well, it's on
the
Criterion
channel.
It's on the channel. So, but I mean, like, I don't know why someone would just be like, I'm going to pop that on. Check it out. Well, Luxembourg Blues says, I remember feeling more comfortable watching Gummo. RJ, is that true?
No. Gummo is like, I don't know. That's just me again, though. I was
See, this is
very.
why I'm with RJ. I fucking hate Gummo.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I love it. Love that Gummo.
It's garbage. I like Spring Breakers.
Yeah.
Man, I'm glad you're on the right side of history for that one at least. Yeah, Gummo, I don't understand. Jarrett, it's fine that you like it. I'm not
I
gonna
like
fight you on that.
Salo. I like all sorts of awful things, but
Oh.
Gummo's just fucking gross.
Yeah. See,
Again,
Like, I'd much rather watch the shit eating from Salo than that bathtub spaghetti scene from Gummo. Get
baby.
out of here.
not a fan of that. Not a fan of any
it's
of that.
dreadful. I like that. This is like, and I also resent things that make me feel like a prude, where I'm just like, ugh, you know, like when I act like my reactions like my mother's, like, ugh. It's not very nice.
Well, as a matter of fact, I mean, Gummo is from your home state of Ohio.
That's something that pisses me off. So like, New York hipster like coming to the sticks, and he's like, "This is what Midwesterners are like."
Mm-hmm. Ain't it? And that's what people think of Canadians too, man. Luxembourg Blues doesn't have bad taste. 5 stars to Punch Drunk Love. 5 stars Eraserhead, Fanny and Alexander, Colonel Blimp. That's a Criterion film. And then honestly, they only have 3 half-star films. Fat Girl, The Immortal Story from 1968.
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
Yeah. That's kind of in the ballpark, I think. It has some frank depictions of sexuality, RJ.
Ugh. What about Sierra from 1950?
I don't know.
Looks like a Western.
Okay, half star, huh?
A half star, apparently.
Maybe it also has some frank depictions of sexuality. And then for the hate side, we'll throw out Monica, half a star. I'm sorry, but this whole thing made me uncomfortable. Uncomfortable? I don't understand all of the good reviews. Yeah, there's a question right there. I don't understand all of the good reviews. Like, I get it. Men are evil, but I don't see what's profound about this.
I mean, yeah, guys are pretty bad, but I mean, guys also rule, is what kids say now. This person
the movie's not even about men.
No,
like,
not really.
at all. Like,
yeah. You know, it's a movie not about men. Portrait of a Lady on Fire. That's a 5-star film for this person. And I know, Frank, I'm sorry. I know you like that movie. It's just, it comes up so often. 5 stars also to Hereditary. Also 5 stars, Jarrett, to Scooby-Doo, the movie, the live action film starring your buddy, Matt Lillard, and what's his name? Freddie Prinze Jr.? You know that guy.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got on here? Half-star films include Bad Timing. Ooh, that's got frank sexuality in it. That's coming up soon, actually, in the next
that movie's so good.
year or so. Bad Timing. La La Land, I guess, is also a half-star. And Saturday Night Fever. For whatever reason. Yeah. Weird.
Well, some 5-star reviews.
Yikes.
Wow, right. These are all very recent. November 2020. From Eloise, men ruin everything.
Probably. Eloise has a favorite film called Mulholland Drive. That is a vibe, apparently. And then also The Piano Teacher. I don't know what that is.
It's Michael Haneke, actually.
Funny Games.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's actually really good.
Okay, I've discovered a weird anomaly now. Michael Haneke. What? Sorry?
I don't like Funny Games either, but Piano Teacher's good.
Oh yeah.
Piano Teacher's only movie I've seen that I like.
I'll check that out. I don't like funny games though.
But it's obnoxious.
I think so. I just think it's really dumb, and obnoxious too. So I just found a weird anomaly. I didn't bring these movies up when I was naming the other people, but the people who hate this movie, this person, Eloise, gave 5 stars. They all have similar 5-star movies. The Handmaiden, which is that like what is that? Is that the South Park Chan-wook movie? And then Porco Rosso, the Miyazaki movie. The people who hate this movie and the people who love this movie, those 2 films pop up.
Okay.
I don't know why. Porco Rosso, I guess. Weird.
Well, Craig McCarthy, top 5 movie I've seen all quarantine, coming of age story with an ending which literally left my mouth agape. I swear to you, I was like a goddamn cartoon wolf at the end of this thing. I will take
That's not
all.
the right... That's not the right metaphor.
I will take all the Catherine Breillat films now, please and thank you. Yeah, I mean the Wooga. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he understands the semiotics of Tex Avery Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
That's not quite right. This person only has 23 movies logged total. So it's a new account. And they watched this movie a week ago. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're watching it for film class. Maybe they're all just following the creeps. That could be possible. They gave 5 stars to Andrei Rublev, which is the second time that's been mentioned tonight for whatever reason. But they don't even have any other zero. They have no ratings lower than 3 stars. I don't know.
So they're easily impressed,
I guess. But they only have 20 movies logged. Okay. So
Yeah. Well, that's enough of these lovers and haters.
Sure.
Any final thoughts, gentlemen, here on Fat Girl?
No. Problematic? I don't know, man. I don't know what to think about this movie. I honestly don't.
That's fine.
You know?
I think she's setting out to make movies that are not easily got.
And that's fine, too. I have some admiration for that. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel conflicted. So maybe that's the intent.
I mean, this is a person who teaches like auteur film at a university. So, I mean, this is like these films are going to like probably lean toward the academic. So, I mean, yeah, she's making film essays. And it's like if you're not in that discourse, if you're not in that dialogue, if you're not going like these are not movies for everybody. Ultimately, I guess like it's not like these movies are going to be contingent on like financial success either. It's just about getting the ideas out there. I guess whatever those ideas might be.
What are those ideas?
I don't know. It could be anything, really. Okay. I think people will walk away perhaps more confused after listening to this.
I hope so. What about you, Double A? You got anything else to say or any final thoughts?
I guess I'd encourage people to read some Breillat, either like her writings or interviews with her, or because she is very clear when she talks about her work, and everything you're like, oh, that makes sense.
Yep.
Oh, okay, and like she knows what she's doing. She's not just like throwing shit out there to be weird or provocative or open-ended. She knows exactly what she's doing, and if asked, she's got an answer.
Right.
I don't think she thinks the stuff's ambiguous at all. And she's very smart. She's a good writer. And you definitely have a body of work, that informs itself.
Yeah. And
that's basically what I have to say about her. She's worth exploring, and I think she's an interesting woman.
Because I do think that I think Romance is on the Criterion channel. From when I looked up what was available of her stuff, because we live in a world where everything's reliant on streaming, and I'm not sure when you're making this type of work. I'm not sure if you're going to be very well represented on Netflix.
No.
This is more of a Hulu movie, I think.
Yeah.
Or a Crave feature.
It's probably worth noting that in both Romance and Anatomy of Hell, she cast the porn star Rocco Siffredi.
Yes. Which I vaguely remember from years ago being like, well, Rocco Siffredi, he was in some Catherine Breillat films. And I was like, huh. Because like in Canada, at least, we had this channel called Showcase. Mm-hmm. And they they'd have on Friday nights they would play Peter Greenaway movies, and I'm sure that depending on how long that channel went for, this was the material that would be straight up their alley. Like this is where you would actually get to see interesting auteur cinema, which was always I saw so many things that way. It was a great thing because you didn't know the people who were working on it obviously knew about movies and were like, hey, we're gonna show this one time and that's it. And then so you're late at night and you're I don't know, 12 years old, and it's I'm going to see some European titties tonight. And but sometimes you saw some penises getting eaten and other things. What the fuck?
That's a good enough place to end things.
Really?
Penises getting eaten?
Yeah.
Or is that a jumping off point?
Exactly.
I think castration anxiety is a fine place to end Fat Girl.
Of course.
After the break. Fuck, I don't know. All the choices I'd have to name, they're all quite bleak, and I don't want anything horrible to happen to any of us.
Just do it.
I don't know. I don't have it in me, RJ. I'm not brave enough as a podcaster of auteurs.
After the break, rape.
There. He said it, not me. He's the bad one.
This is a character I play for a podcast.